All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Quickly before we do, would you mind raising your hands if you guys can hear me? Thanks. So today's webinar, we do this coffee break webinar once a month. They're only 20 minutes long, and we go over a different accounts receivable topic that is educational and helpful. And this month's topic is how to build an effective collection strategy. So a little bit about us before we do get started. My name is Lindsay O'Brien, and I'm with Anytime Collect, which is an automated accounts receivable software. We've been around for 10 years, so we've been able to gather a lot of this really great information and tips and tricks for accounts receivable that we really love to share out with the industry to really create some best practices. So the agenda for today, we're going to go over what a collection strategy is, how to set one up in your department, how to be proactive with that collection strategy, and then how to eventually get paid using that collection strategy. So on the screen right now, we've got a basic definition of what a collection strategy is. Just ensuring that your accounts receivable stays under control and creating a standard within that accounts receivable department. So without this collection strategy, there tends to be disorganization, miscommunications between not only yourself and your customer, but maybe if you're the manager of your department, between yourself and your teammates. This translates into not knowing when you should be sending out the first invoices, how often you should be getting in contact with your customers, who or when you should be making follow-up phone calls. There simply isn't any order without this collection strategy, and that's when customers end up falling through the cracks and you don't end up getting paid. If you're not ensuring that that follow-up phone call is getting made after a collection letter goes unanswered, then obviously your average days late is going to increase. So having this collection strategy in place is just really helpful for ensuring that the entire department is on the same page. Everyone knows when they should be calling and who they should be calling, and really what's that next step they should take to make sure that you're getting paid. So what's up on the slide now is 3 of the main steps to setting up a collection strategy. The best place to start is by identifying your current processes, if any. Do you have anything in place right now? Do you know when you should be sending out that first invoice? Is it at 30, 60, 90 days that you're doing follow-ups? And figure out what kind of habits your collectors currently have. So talk to them, get a feel for how your collectors right now are doing their process, and see if there's any type of difference between one collector to the next, and then even look at what their success rates are and see if maybe one collector is having more success than another and they have these different processes. And there is where you can maybe find where your best practices lie. Maybe one likes to send out invoices on the first week of the month while another one sends invoices immediately. That's where you might find that there's the best practice in sending those immediately. Once you discover what collection strategies are working best, you'll want to make that a uniform across the accounts receivable department. The next main point in setting up a collection strategy is using a business credit application. Some of you might already be doing this, some of you might not. So we're just going to run through it quickly. The business credit application sets the stage for a good collection strategy because it helps you decipher who's the biggest credit risk and who can you safely extend credit to without much worry. So when you're creating a business credit application, there's some main points that need to be included in it in order for you to be able to make that best decision around who should be extending credit to or how much you should be extending to them. First of all, you need the formal name of the business, their DUNS number, the business address, when the company started. This is useful information because if they've been around for a decade or longer, you can typically assume that their credit risk is pretty low because they've been able to successfully manage their finances for a decade or longer. However, with maybe a startup, you might be a little bit more hesitant and consider their credit risk to be a little bit higher. You want to look at what their total and current assets are, annual sales, after-tax profit, what credit limit they are requesting, and this helps to give you an idea of what their liabilities total more than their after-tax profit, you may want to look into further getting references from this company and look into extending them credit a little deeper than you might someone else. You want to get some bank references. Bank references will give you a good idea of how much the company has in resources. You can even ask them for permission to speak with their banker, because that will give you some good insight into how they manage their finances. And then finally, and this is what we stress as one of the most important parts of a business credit application, is having trade references. Usually the best number to ask for is 3 trade references. And these are other references, people that they are borrowing money from, where you can get a good idea from this reference on whether the company is paying on time, if they've always been a really great customer, but maybe lately they've been late on their payments. Getting this kind of inside information on what type of payer this company is will give you some inside information on how you can expect to get paid. If they're always paying a month late, you can pretty much expect that you'll get paid a month late as well. And then finally, creating a collection call plan. So when it comes to collections, this is probably one of the most time-consuming tasks. A lot of people, when they're first getting into accounts receivable, they're a little hesitant to pick up the phone, but this is also one of the best ways to get paid. Getting on the phone, talking to these people and putting a name to the voice, so to say. Once on the call, you never really know how the conversation is going to turn out. So that's when creating this collection strategy is going to come into play, because you can create call scripts. You can create these scenarios before they happen and give your collectors an idea of how they can react to them and steer the conversation in a way that's going to help your company get paid faster. So we're going to go over some of the different tips and tricks that we've come up with on creating a collection call plan within your collection strategy. So the first part is when you get on the phone, make conversation. Instead of jumping straight into collection mode and asking why you haven't been paid, just be friendly with the person that's on the phone. Think about how you would want to be treated if someone was calling you. If you immediately jump down someone's throat, it's most likely they're not going to want to work with you and work with you to get you paid. So ask them how their day has been, make small talk. This helps to build a relationship, and the better of a relationship that you have with the customer, the more likely that they're not going to want to keep paying you late. You're going to be the first person that they make sure that they pay because they like you and you've created this relationship with them, and you're at the top of their list now to get paid. The next step is to ask about their outstanding payment. So once you've caught up with the customer, then it's time that you can sort of start asking about these late payments. Include all the information about when it was due, when you sent out the invoices, what the invoice number was, how much was due, and any other information that you can give them to jog their memory and make sure that they received those invoices and they knew what was going on. And then stop and listen. So now that you've done your part, you've explained everything to them, let the customer explain why they haven't paid in order to fill the silence. No one wants an awkward silence on the phone. Wait to see if the customer acknowledges that they have that outstanding debt and that they owe on. Pay attention, see if there are any inconsistencies or contradictions that need to be addressed. And this will give really good insight into where the customer is at with their financials and whether they simply forgot or are aware of their late payment. I do see that we have a hand raised. I will get to all questions at the end. So as soon as we are done with this, I'll answer any questions. The next tip is to come to an agreement. So always end the call with an agreement to pay. Whether this is an agreement that they're going to pay as soon as you get off the phone, or you've created new payment terms, you always want to make sure that the call ends with an agreement. Even if it's an agreement that they can have an extension for 3 months from now. Don't let them just get off the phone and say, yeah, I'll figure something out, or I'll call you back, because they probably won't end up calling you back, and you're going to have to keep hunting them down. And then finally, record the conversation. So I'm sure that a lot of you are taking notes on your phone calls, but sometimes it's easier to just record the conversation right off the bat. So then you're focused on the call. You're focused on listening to your customer and having that conversation with them. And then when you're done, you can go back, and even if the customer comes back to you and says, I didn't say that, I didn't promise that I was going to pay you as soon as we got off the call, you have that recorded conversation. The rules will vary based on what state you're in. I know that some states you can't record unless you let the customer know that the conversation was being recorded ahead of time. Some states it only matters if you knew that you were recording the entire time. Try and figure out what those laws are before you record the conversation. But this helps with getting rid of any miscommunications and also holding the customer to what they had promised you. So next we're going to talk about being proactive in your strategy. So we're going to start with conducting reviews. So when it comes to collecting, the best way to get paid faster is to be proactive. So getting ahead of a customer before they end up not paying you. So conducting reviews on your customer helps you to pick up on those subtle signs that they probably won't end up paying you on time, or that they might be headed towards, something big like a bankruptcy. So when you're conducting reviews, this is when you really need to be picking up the phone. You only contacting them via email to send them their monthly invoices isn't going to give you a good idea of what's going on with them. When they see you more of a friend and a partner, building that relationship like we were talking about earlier, they're more likely to open up if they are aware of anything going on in the company that you should be aware of when it comes to receiving payment. Next is recognizing the signs. So we've found that there are a few signs that can help give you a hint to whether this company is struggling. So paying small invoices before large ones. If a company is only paying smaller invoices and not larger ones, it's a good indication that they're struggling to make payment. Taking longer to pay. So maybe they were a really good customer for a long time, and now it's taking you longer and longer to receive that payment, and you can notice this pattern. You can assume that something's going on, and that's when you'd want to reach out and let them know, hey, I noticed you're taking a little longer than usual. If you have an accounts receivable software, set up alerts, and so that when a customer starts to slip and pay later, you know that you're getting an email that's indicating that this is a customer that's starting to slip. And then if you know that they're only paying specific suppliers, so they'll feel obligated to pay those that they see as a business partner rather than just a vendor. Which again, like we've mentioned a couple times, creating that relationship and being a good partner with your customers, you'll be one of those specific suppliers that they pay when they start to see trouble ahead. Involving the sales department. I know that a lot of times the AR department and the sales department can butt heads when it comes to what type of payment terms we're going to allow to customers, but it really is important to involve the sales department when you're starting to have trouble with a customer, because they've created that relationship already with the customer during the sales cycle. So they should be conducting their own regular reviews to ensure the customer is getting everything they need and are satisfied. So that can be included in the collection strategy. And then the sales rep can reach out to them when you're starting to have trouble getting in contact with them, and include them in that collection cycle. Ask them to reach out to the customer on your behalf to try and figure out what's going on and why you're not getting paid. And then finally, pay attention to company updates. Set a Google alert for a company that you're really struggling to to get in touch with or to get payment from. You just go onto Google and you can have an alert set for any information that's out there on that company name, and they'll send you an email with any news articles or any information that's out on Google that has to do with that company. And then you'll be ahead of the game if something ends up happening, if they're struggling economically or they're becoming unstable, or maybe they're undergoing an acquisition, so they've stopped payment on any invoices. That way you'll be ahead of the game. You'll be proactive in your collections with them. And then finally, the whole point to creating your collection strategy, getting paid. So one of the best tips that we have for getting paid is documenting this collection strategy. You're going to put all this time into creating this strategy, and then your collectors aren't going to do anything with it if they don't know that it exists. So write it down, get it on paper, and then put it somewhere that is easily accessible by all your collection representatives. Especially if you're a growing company and you plan on hiring more collection representatives down the road, then you know that this collection strategy is out there. You can give it to them on day one, and they'll hit the ground running with their collections. Next is holding them accountable to this collection strategy. So we know they read it, but now we need to hold them accountable. Have them sign the document after you've distributed it so you know that they read it. If you know they're not following the strategy that you've created, then you need to talk with them and have them understand the consequences of not meeting the collection strategy guidelines. So me, that's holding them accountable by having a certain amount of accounts that they have to get in touch with each month. A certain amount of actions or invoices that need to be paid on each month. Create some type of goal that has to be reached so that you know that all of your collection representatives are hitting their numbers, and it's not just one or two that are really going after getting these invoices paid. Pay attention to KPIs. So take note of how your KPIs were before you put this collection strategy in place, and see where they go after this collection strategy has been put into place. Note whether these are good or bad changes and address them. And then see if there's some areas that maybe don't change at all. And then you need to go back and fix your collection strategy. So this is going to be more of like a living document. So as you go, check every couple months and then tweak things if you don't see the results that you were expecting to see. And then finally, use an automated AR system. So what makes a collection strategy help you get paid faster is by documenting how often a collection representative should be following up with customers. So we were talking about those KPIs. And it can be really hard to determine how many calls your collection representatives actually made in a day if you're trying to do that manually. But by using an automated accounts receivable software, every action that a collection representative takes is documented in the system. It's easily viewed on a dashboard. It eliminates manual tasks so that your collection representatives are spending more time on the phone instead of spending all their time creating new emails and sending them out to individual customers. And then it also helps with onboarding because every representative knows exactly what they should do in the system as soon as they log in. So it's really just helping to create a more proactive department throughout. And then that's all we had for our webinar today. I know that we have a couple Q&A questions already. I'm going to launch a poll that we had. If you guys could all fill that out while I check out these. Oh no, no one was seeing the slides. I can send out these slides after after we get off this call so that you can see all of these slides and you can go over it, and we can also send out a recording of this as well. But it was just a couple slides that said mostly what I was talking about anyways. So I hope you guys don't feel like you missed out on too much. Does anybody have any questions in addition to what we talked about today? I'll give you guys a couple minutes. You can type that in the chat box if anybody has any questions, or in the Q&A box. What is the name of the software? Our company has Anytime Collect, automated accounts receivable software. And you can, well, you can't see the slides, apparently. Oh, there we go. Should see the slide now. Our website is at the bottom of the page, and actually the business credit application that we were talking about and all the different pieces that should be a part of it is actually out on our website. We have a template that you can just download. So feel free to go out there and check that out, and then you can also check out a lot of the features that are included in our software to really help you guys get organized and eliminate all of those manual tasks. We have customers that have eliminated 600 hours of time just because they're no longer having to send out those manual emails. Do we have any other questions? What is KPI? KPI is a key performance indicator. So some of the ones that you might be using in your department are things like day sales outstanding, average days to pay, just different metrics like that that will help you understand how much you're collecting and how long it's taking for you to get paid. Will side presentation be sent out to participants? Yes. I will be sending out a recording of this webinar, and I can also include the slide presentation in that email, so I'll make sure that everybody gets that. All right, if we don't have any more questions, I'll let you guys all go. I hope you all got something out of this. Feel free to sign up for any of our future coffee break webinars that we'll be having next month. We have done some really cool topics in the past, like robotic process automation and how it's affecting the industry, how to use marketing tactics and collection emails to get good response rates. A lot of really cool tips and tricks for AR. So check out our website and then find where you can sign up for those. Thanks, everybody.